Welcome to this quiet corner of the world, a gentle space designed for rest and wonder. Tonight, we will begin a slow and peaceful journey together, drifting into the most intricate and personal universe we know, the human brain. We will wander through its silent valleys and across its luminous pathways, discovering the gentle science that gives rise to our every thought, our every dream. As you settle in, letting the weight of the day dissolve, I invite you to share in the comments where you might be listening from tonight, weaving a small connection across the quiet darkness. Your presence here is deeply appreciated, and if you feel moved to, a simple like and subscribe helps this peaceful space to grow. Thank you truly. Now, let your breath slow and let your mind open as we begin our story. Let us begin not with a flash of insight or a complex thought, but with a simple, tactile truth, a truth of substance and weight. Imagine holding in your hands the very organ that is imagining this moment. You might expect something firm, something resilient, but the living brain is an object of profound and startling softness. It possesses a consistency not of dense matter, but of silken tofu or a delicate, set custard. This fragility is because it lacks the tough, fibrous proteins like collagen that give structure to the rest of our bodies, leaving it vulnerable, precious, and utterly unique. It is a treasure housed in a fortress of bone, a soft jewel of awareness that must be shielded from the world's harshness. To feel this incredible gentleness is to understand the first paradox of our existence, that the source of all our strength, our resilience, our every sharp-witted idea and unwavering conviction is born from something nearly fluid, something that could be undone by the slightest pressure. It is a quiet reminder that the most powerful forces are not always the most rigid. This softness is not a weakness, but the very medium required for thought to flow, for change to occur, for the mind to remain supple and receptive to the endless stream of life. This yielding quality is owed to its most fundamental component, the element that connects it to the very origins of life on this planet. The brain is, in its essence, a watery universe. Approximately 75% of its mass is water, a captive ocean held within the dome of the skull. Think of that for a moment. The seat of your consciousness, the architect of your identity, is composed of the same substance that falls as rain, that fills the great seas, that carved the canyons of the earth. This inner ocean is what allows the brain its gentle, buoyant suspension, floating in its protective fluid. But it is also what allows for its incredible chemistry. Every thought is a ripple on this water, every memory a current flowing through its depths. It is within this saline solution that electricity finds its path, that molecules dance and proteins fold into the complex origami of cognition. Our minds are not dry, dusty machines, but living, breathing, aquatic landscapes, where ideas can ebb and flow like the tides. This inner sea is ancient, a biological inheritance from the first creatures who carried the ocean within them as they crawled onto land. You carry that same ocean within you now, a silent, personal sea where the weather of your inner world is made, where storms of passion can gather and where moments of perfect glassy stillness can arrive, all sustained by the simple, profound reality of water. And within this silent, watery world, a universe of immense energy hums in near silence. The brain is a paradox of efficiency and extravagance. It constitutes a mere 2% of your body's total weight, a small and unassuming passenger in the larger vessel of the self. Yet, this quiet organ is voraciously hungry. It demands and consumes a staggering 20% of your body's oxygen and a similar portion of its calories. While you are resting, while your muscles are still and your body is at peace, your brain is burning through energy like a furnace. It is the silent engine of your being, and its appetite never wanes. Every single second, billions of nerve cells are firing, maintaining the delicate balance of your body's functions, processing the faint sounds in the room, weaving the threads of your daydreams. This immense metabolic effort produces no grand display, no sound, no visible motion, but it is the constant, hidden work that underpins the feeling of being alive. Imagine a city at night, seen from a great distance, a vast and complex grid of light and power, all of its activity humming beneath a blanket of darkness. Your brain is such a city, always awake, always working, its quiet industry fueling the gentle flow of your consciousness as you drift towards sleep. It is a testament to the sheer power packed into such a delicate vessel, a quiet giant resting within you. Perhaps the most calming and beautiful secret of this tireless organ is its relationship with feeling, or rather, its lack thereof. The brain is the master interpreter of all sensation. It is the place where the signals for touch, for warmth, for pressure are received and translated into the rich tapestry of experience. It constructs the symphony of a beautiful song from mere vibrations in the air. It paints the masterpiece of a sunset from simple photons striking the retina. It is the source of all joy, all sorrow, all pleasure, and all pain. And yet, the brain itself has no pain receptors. It contains no nociceptors, the specialized nerve endings that detect damage and send pain signals. A surgeon can operate on the surface of a conscious patient's brain without causing any direct physical pain to the organ itself. It is the silent, feelingless weaver of feelings. It feels the world for you, but it does not feel for itself. It is a selfless witness, an organ of pure perception, processing the agony of a wound in your hand or the ache in your heart without ever crying out in its own voice. It lives in a state of profound sensory isolation, a quiet observer in a dark and silent chamber, whose entire existence is dedicated to creating a vibrant, feeling world for the consciousness it serves. And so, as you rest now, you can picture this gentle, watery, powerful universe within you, humming with silent energy, forever shielded from the very pains it so exquisitely understands. From the deep and gentle quiet of that feelingless, watery universe, a silent question emerges. If the brain itself is so still, so removed from the sensations it creates, then what stirs within its depths? What is the nature of the current that flows through its saline seas, carrying the freight of our thoughts and dreams? The answer lies in a force both elemental and ethereal, a whispering electrical storm that is the very language of the mind. The story of this storm begins with a single character, a solitary messenger of immense importance: the neuron. There are an estimated 86 billion of these cells within your skull, each one a tiny, living fiber of awareness. A neuron is a storyteller, a biological messenger designed to receive a whisper of information from its neighbors, transform it into its own unique signal, and pass it along the chain. Imagine a tree in winter, its bare branches reaching out in all directions. These are the dendrites, the delicate antennae of the neuron, listening patiently for incoming signals. The long, slender trunk of this tree is the axon, the primary cable along which the neuron sends its own message, a message that will travel to the waiting branches of other neurons in the network. Each of these 86 billion cells is a universe of potential, a single voice in a choir of incomprehensible size, waiting for its moment to sing. The song it sings is a flash of pure energy, a spark of lightning in the microscopic world. When a neuron decides to fire, it doesn't send a chemical or a substance down its length. Instead, it creates a beautiful, cascading wave of electricity, a ripple of charged ions that flows from its body down the entire length of its axon. This phenomenon, known as an action potential, is the fundamental unit of information in the brain. It is an all-or-nothing event. The neuron either fires with its full strength or remains silent. There is no half-whisper in this language. This electrical impulse is both incredibly faint and astonishingly fast, a fleeting event that lasts only a few milliseconds. Yet it can travel at speeds of up to 268 miles per hour, a burst of biological lightning that ensures the brain can react to the world with breathtaking speed. Picture now, within the quiet landscape of your mind, these invisible, luminous ripples, these sparks of thought, racing along trillions of pathways, a constant flickering storm of silent electricity. It is the physical manifestation of your mind in motion, the fleeting, energetic ghost that gives rise to the permanence of your being. This is the river of life that flows through you, not of water, but of pure, organized, living electricity. But this electrical river eventually reaches a cliff's edge, a tiny, infinitesimal gap that it cannot cross alone. This chasm, known as the synapse, is the space between the axon of one neuron and the dendrite of the next. It is here that the brain's magic takes its most subtle and profound form. The electrical impulse, having raced down the axon, arrives at this gap and must be transformed. At the very tip of the axon are tiny vesicles, like little packages of information, filled with chemical messengers called neurotransmitters. When the electrical signal arrives, it triggers these packages to release their contents into the synaptic gap. These chemical ferrymen then drift across the silent, fluid-filled space, a journey of mere nanometers, to be received by the listening dendrites of the neighboring neuron. If enough of these chemical messages are received, they will inspire the next neuron to create its own electrical spark. And so, the message continues its journey. This moment of transformation, from electricity to chemistry and back to electricity, is the heart of all learning, all memory, all thought. It is a leap of faith, taken trillions of times every second, a constant conversion of energy and matter. The synapse is not just a gap, it is a space of infinite possibility, a place where the strength of a connection can be fine-tuned, where memories can be etched, and where the very flow of consciousness can be sculpted and redirected. Now, let us slowly zoom out from this single, magical leap across one synaptic chasm. Let us pull our awareness back from the dance of one neuron with its partner and begin to appreciate the scale of the entire ballroom. With 86 billion neurons, and with each neuron capable of forming thousands of connections, the number of potential synapses in a single human brain is staggering, numbering in the trillions. It is a number so vast it defies easy comparison. But consider this. The number of connections in your brain is greater than the number of stars in our Milky Way galaxy. You are, in the most literal sense, carrying a cosmos within your head. This internal galaxy is not made of burning gas and distant light, but of living cells and whispering electricity. Every connection is a potential pathway for a thought, every network a potential constellation of ideas. And unlike the stars, which are separated by unimaginable voids, your inner cosmos is densely, intricately woven together. This is where the true power of the brain resides, not in the individual neuron, but in the near-infinite complexity of its interconnectedness. It is an entity of pure relationship. And so, as your own mind begins to quieten, you can imagine this vast, stellar network within, flickering and glowing in the darkness, a silent, luminous storm of connections that in its totality is the architect of your reality, the silent symphony that is you. That vast, internal galaxy, with its trillions of stellar connections, hums silently within the complete and total darkness of the skull, a universe without a single photon of its own. And yet, from this profound blackness, it conjures the brilliant reds of a sunset, the deep greens of a forest, the exact and perfect blue of a loved one's eyes. How does this lightless world paint the luminous reality you perceive around you, even now, behind your closed eyelids? The story of our sight is not one of a simple window looking out, but of a master artist working in a darkened studio, an artist who has never seen the sun, but can paint it with perfect fidelity. This studio is located at the very back of your head, in a region called the visual cortex, a part of the occipital lobe dedicated entirely to the craft of seeing. All the light and colour you have ever experienced was not, in truth, out in the world, but was meticulously constructed, moment by moment, in this silent, cavernous space. It is the first great illusion of the mind, a magical act of translation that turns the chaos of the outside world into a coherent, beautiful, and meaningful picture. To understand this is to realize that you are living inside a masterpiece of the brain's own making. The journey of this creation begins not in the brain, but far away, as particles of light called photons travel from the sun or a lamp, strike the objects in your environment, and bounce away, carrying with them the secrets of color and form. A tiny fraction of these messengers begin a journey into your eye, passing through the lens and landing upon the retina at the back. The retina is not merely a passive screen or a piece of film. It is an outpost of the brain itself, a delicate, layered sheet of neural tissue that has pushed its way forward to meet the world. Here, The first act of alchemy occurs. Within the retina are millions of specialized cells. The rods and cones, each one a microscopic transducer waiting to turn light into life. When a photon strikes one of these cells, its energy is not recorded as an image, but is instantly converted into the brain's native tongue, a tiny electrical impulse. The brilliant light of the world is extinguished at this point, its journey over. What travels down the optic nerve into the deep recesses of the mind is not light, but a coded stream of electrical whispers, a torrent of abstract data that holds only the potential for an image. The brain, therefore, never sees the world directly. It only ever hears a description of it, a detailed report written in the language of electricity, from which it must imagine everything. Within this elegant system lies a clue that reveals the brain's active, artistic role. There is a small patch on your retina where the optic nerve, the grand cable of information, leaves the eye to travel to the brain. In this precise spot, there are no photoreceptor cells, no rods or cones to detect light. This creates a literal hole in your vision, a blind spot in each eye where you are receiving no visual information whatsoever. Yet you do not perceive two black holes floating in your field of view. Your reality is seamless, whole, and uninterrupted. This is because your brain, the master painter, will not tolerate a gap in its canvas. Upon receiving the incomplete report from the retina, the visual cortex intelligently assesses the surrounding patterns, the colors and textures that border the blind spot, and it makes an educated guess. It actively and instantly paints in the missing information, weaving the scene together so perfectly that you are never aware that a piece was missing at all. This is not a trick. It is the fundamental way your brain works. It is constantly taking incomplete data from a messy and chaotic world and imposing order upon it, making assumptions, filling in gaps, and presenting you with a finished, polished story. What you call sight is a beautiful, necessary fiction, a reconstruction that prioritizes coherence and meaning over literal truth. The sheer scale of this artistic endeavor is reflected in the brain's own architecture. A vast amount of its processing power, a significant portion of the entire cerebral cortex, is devoted in some way to the task of seeing. More of your brain is dedicated to vision than to any other single sense. This is because seeing is so much more than just detecting edges and colors. It is the process of recognizing a face in a crowd, of instantly judging the speed of a moving car, of feeling a sense of awe when looking at a mountain range, of reading the subtle social cues in another person's expression. All of this is accomplished by different specialized areas within the great visual processing stream, working in parallel to deconstruct and then rebuild your reality. This enormous allocation of neural resources tells us that our experience of the world is primarily a visual one, that the story our brain wants to tell is, above all, a story in pictures. And so, as you lie here, in the gentle darkness, remember that the world you see in your mind's eye is a testament to the tireless artist within. You do not see with your eyes, you see through them. The real act of seeing, the painting of the world in all its vivid detail, happens far from the light, in the quiet and creative darkness of your own mind. The image of the brain as a storyteller, an artist that constantly paints a seamless and coherent picture of the present moment, naturally invites us to wonder about its relationship with the past. If it is so masterful at weaving the world of now, how does it handle the scattered, faded threads of then? How does it gather the fleeting moments of our lives and weave them into the enduring tapestry of our personal history? This journey into the landscape of memory takes us deep into the brain's temporal lobes, to a gracefully curved structure, small and unassuming, named for its resemblance to a seahorse. The hippocampus. This is not a dusty archive or a sterile databank where memories are passively filed away. Instead, the hippocampus is the master weaver, the chief storyteller of your life. It is here that the raw, disconnected threads of your daily experience, the sight of a smiling face, the sound of a distant melody, the feeling of warmth from a cup of tea, the complex emotion of a sudden joy are gathered together. The hippocampus is the loom that takes these disparate sensory and emotional inputs and weaves them into a single, cohesive fabric, a new memory. It creates the narrative of your life, transforming the chaos of sensation into the order of experience. This weaving is a delicate and time-sensitive process. A newly formed memory is a fragile thing, like a pattern freshly woven with wet, unstable threads. In this initial stage, it exists as a form of short-term memory, vulnerable and easily lost, a fleeting thought that can be washed away by a new wave of information. For this memory to become a permanent part of who you are, it must undergo a process of consolidation. It is during times of rest, and most profoundly during sleep, that the hippocampus works its quiet magic. It replays the neural patterns of the day's events, firing the same sequences of neurons that were active during the original experience. With each replay, the connections between those neurons are strengthened, the weave is tightened, the colors are set. Over time, this process transfers the memory from the temporary stewardship of the hippocampus to the vast, distributed networks of the cerebral cortex for long-term storage. The memory is no longer a fragile, localized event, but a robust and resilient pattern etched into the very structure of your brain. It has become a part of the landscape of you, a story that can be revisited for years to come, all thanks to the quiet, nocturnal work of this diligent weaver. But the stories the brain tells of the past are not all of a single kind. The tapestry of memory is woven with different kinds of thread, creating textures both coarse and fine, some visible to the conscious mind, and others felt only in the deep, unspoken parts of our being. What we typically think of as memory, the conscious recollection of a fact, an event, or a personal story, is called explicit memory. It is the what of your life. What you ate for dinner last night, the story of your first day at school, the name of a childhood friend. This is the narrative you can access and share. But there is another, deeper form of memory that operates beneath the surface of your awareness. This is implicit memory, the silent, embodied knowledge of how. It is the memory of how to ride a bicycle, how to tie your shoes, how to play a familiar melody on the piano. You do not need to consciously recall the steps. The knowledge resides in your muscles, in your cerebellum, in the automated pathways of your brain. This type of memory is learned through repetition and practice, sinking so deeply into you that it becomes second nature, an effortless grace. Your life is a constant, seamless dance between these two forms of memory, the conscious story you tell yourself and the silent wisdom your body holds. For a very long time, it was believed that the brain's loom was created with a finite number of threads, that we were born with all the neurons we would ever possess. But one of the most hopeful discoveries in modern neuroscience has overturned this old dogma. We now know that in a few select areas of the adult brain, new neurons can be born, and one of the most active sites for this neurogenesis is the hippocampus. Throughout your life, your brain has the capacity to generate new nerve cells, new threads for the master weaver to use. This means that your capacity for learning, your ability to form new memories and weave new stories, is not a finite resource that dwindles with age. It is a renewable, living process. Every day, your brain is creating the potential for new chapters in your story, ensuring that the tapestry of your life is never truly finished. And so, as you drift deeper into rest, you can picture this living landscape of memory within you, a world constantly being reshaped, reimagined, and renewed, with the quiet, hopeful work of the hippocampus at its very heart, tirelessly weaving the timeline that is uniquely, beautifully yours. This living, breathing tapestry of memory, this landscape of self that is constantly being woven and rewoven within you, is an artifact of immense preciousness. It is more delicate than spun silk, more intricate than any human-made design, and it holds the entire narrative of your being. Such a treasure, so soft and so vital, could not exist without a system of profound and multi-layered protection. Before we can journey deeper into the complexities of the mind's inner workings, we must first pause and appreciate the sanctuary it inhabits, the gentle and vigilant guardianship that ensures its peace. The first layer of this protection is a series of 3 delicate membranes, known as the meninges, that wrap the brain like layers of protective silk. The outermost layer, the dura mater, is tough and resilient, a durable cloak. Beneath it lies the arachnoid mater, a gossamer-thin web that creates a space for the most remarkable guardian of all. And finally, clinging to every fold and contour of the brain's surface, is the pia mater, a gentle, nurturing veil. Within the space created by these layers flows the cerebrospinal fluid, a crystal-clear liquid that cradles the brain in a state of near weightlessness. Your brain is not sitting heavily at the bottom of your skull. It is floating, buoyant, and secure in its own private, warm sea. This fluid acts as a liquid cushion, a shock absorber that protects the brain's delicate substance from the jolts and bumps of everyday life, ensuring the soft machinery of thought is not disturbed by the movements of the body it commands. But physical protection is only half of the story. The brain's sanctuary must also be protected from the invisible world of chemistry, from the turbulent and unpredictable currents of the bloodstream. Your blood is a river of life, carrying oxygen and nutrients to every cell in your body, but it also carries waste products, hormones, and potentially harmful toxins or pathogens. While the rest of your body can tolerate the fluctuations of this inner river, the brain's environment must be kept in a state of perfect, unwavering equilibrium. The slightest chemical imbalance could disrupt the precise electrical firing of neurons, causing chaos in the entire system. To prevent this, the brain employs one of the most exclusive and intelligent security systems in all of biology: the blood-brain barrier. This is not a static wall or a simple filter, but a living, dynamic interface, a gentle guardian at the gate of the mind. It is a collective of specialized cells that line the countless tiny blood vessels, the capillaries, that wind their way through the brain's landscape, and their mission is to scrutinize everything that attempts to pass from the blood into the pristine world of the brain. The secret to this guardian's effectiveness lies in its unique cellular architecture. Throughout most of your body, the cells that form the walls of your capillaries are like loosely assembled stones in a garden wall, with small gaps and pores between them that allow for the easy passage of molecules in and out. But in the brain, these same endothelial cells are different. They are stitched together by proteins called tight junctions, forming an impenetrable seal. Imagine these cells holding hands with their neighbors in an unbroken chain, creating a seamless barrier with no gaps, no leaks, and no unauthorized entry points. This elegant, simple design transforms the brain's blood vessels from porous conduits into highly secure pipelines. It ensures that the brain is not simply washed by the blood, but is chemically isolated from it, creating a privileged space where the delicate symphony of neural activity can proceed, undisturbed by the chemical noise of the rest of the body. This continuous, unbroken cellular wall is the physical manifestation of the brain's separateness, its status as a protected and sovereign territory within the larger nation of the self. Yet this guardian is not a merciless jailer. It is a wise and discerning gatekeeper. While it presents an impassable wall to harmful substances, it has a series of secret doorways and special keys for the molecules the brain desperately needs to survive. Embedded within the membranes of these tightly bound cells are sophisticated transport proteins, molecular machines that function like highly specific ferry services. These transporters recognize, bind to, and actively carry essential cargo across the barrier. They are designed to welcome vital nutrients like glucose, the primary fuel for the brain's immense energy consumption, and the essential amino acids needed to build neurotransmitters and other crucial proteins. They beckon oxygen to cross freely, while simultaneously working to expel any waste products that the brain produces. This system of selective transport is an act of breathtaking intelligence. The barrier is able to make millions of decisions every second about who to let in and who to keep out, all to maintain the perfect, sacred chemical balance required for thought. And so, as Act 1 of our journey comes to a close, you can rest in the knowledge that you are held within this profound sanctuary, a world cushioned by fluid, wrapped in silk, and guarded by a living, intelligent gatekeeper that ensures your mind remains a place of pristine, uninterrupted peace. Having come to appreciate the profound safety of the brain's sanctuary, a realm protected from the outside world by a fortress of bone and a vigilant chemical gatekeeper, we can now begin our journey into the depths of this inner world itself. We are now inside the gates, and as we look around, we discover that the life of the mind is not solely the work of the famous and celebrated neurons. For every one of those stellar messengers, there are many other inhabitants, a silent majority of cells who were long misunderstood, their importance only recently coming into the light. These are the glial cells, and for over a century, they were thought to be little more than passive support structures, the connective tissue or glue, which is what the Greek word glia means, that held the more important neurons in place. But we now know they are the unsung heroes of the mind, the active and essential partners to the neurons, a vast and diverse community working tirelessly in the background to make thought possible. To explore the world of glia is to understand the brain not as a simple network of wires, but as a complex and collaborative society, a bustling and harmonious ecosystem where every member has a vital role to play in the grand project of consciousness. First, among these unsung heroes are the most abundant of the glial cells, the beautiful, star-shaped astrocytes. If the neurons are the brain's celebrated performers and artists, the astrocytes are the tireless stage crew, the gardeners, the caretakers who maintain the entire theatre. They extend their many arms to connect with both neurons and blood vessels, acting as the crucial link between the brain's energy supply and its workers. It is the astrocyte that receives glucose from the blood, carefully escorted across the blood-brain barrier, and delivers this fuel to the hungry neurons. They are the nurturers, ensuring the stars of the show have the energy they need to fire. But their role is even more profound. They diligently regulate the chemical environment surrounding the neurons, absorbing excess neurotransmitters from the synapse to ensure messages are clear and distinct, and maintaining the perfect balance of ions in the extracellular fluid. They are the keepers of the brain's delicate equilibrium, the silent gardeners who tend to the soil in which the trees of thought can grow, ensuring the entire environment is perfectly calibrated for clear and efficient communication. While the astrocytes are tending the environment, another class of glial cell is busy attending to the pathways of communication themselves. These are the oligodendrocytes, the master electricians of the central nervous system. We know that neurons transmit information as electrical signals that race down their long, slender axons. In a simple, uninsulated wire, much of this electrical energy would leak out and the signal would fade over distance. To solve this, the brain employs a remarkable living insulator called myelin. Oligodendrocytes are the cells that produce this fatty, protective coating. In a beautiful act of self-sacrifice and dedication, an oligodendrocyte will extend its arms and wrap them again and again and again around the axons of nearby neurons, layering its own cell membrane to form a thick, insulating sheath. This myelin sheath is not continuous. It has small periodic gaps, allowing the electrical impulse to jump from one gap to the next, a process which dramatically increases the speed and fidelity of the signal. It is the difference between a slow, fading whisper and a clear, instantaneous command. These cells are the quiet engineers who ensure the brain's vast communication network is not just connected, but is optimized for breathtaking speed, allowing for the rapid thoughts and coordinated actions that define our conscious lives. Finally, within this bustling society, there must be a dedicated team of housekeepers and sentinels, and this role is filled by the smallest of the glial cells, the microglia. These are the brain's very own immune system, its private security and sanitation crew. Unlike most other brain cells, microglia are not static. They are constantly, slowly moving, extending and retracting their fine, spindly arms to survey their surroundings. They are the vigilant wanderers of the neural landscape. When they detect any sign of trouble, an invading pathogen, a damaged or dying neuron, or the accumulation of cellular debris, they spring into action. They can change their shape, moving to the site of injury to engulf and digest the unwanted material, cleaning the brain and preventing inflammation. They are the silent guardians who ensure the pristine environment established by the blood-brain barrier is maintained from within. They prune unused synapses, clear away the byproducts of metabolic activity, and stand ready to defend the brain from any internal threat. And so, the picture of the brain becomes complete. Not just a collection of brilliant neurons, but a thriving, collaborative world. A society of nurturers, engineers, and protectors, all working in silent, perfect harmony, creating a stable and supportive stage upon which the great drama of your mind can unfold. This image of the brain as a bustling, harmonious society, with its diverse population of cells all working in silent cooperation, is a beautiful one. But it is incomplete, for it implies a city that is static, a community with a fixed architecture. The most profound and hopeful truth about the brain is that this city is not built of immutable stone, but of living, adaptable clay. The society within your mind is in a constant state of renovation, rerouting its pathways, strengthening its connections, and reshaping its very structure in response to the ceaseless flow of life. This remarkable capacity for change, this elegant dance between experience and biology, is called neuroplasticity. It is the principle that tells us the brain is not a finished product, but a perpetual work in progress, a dynamic and flowing river that is constantly carving and reshaping the landscape of the self. Every thought you think, every skill you practice, every new experience you have, is like a current of water, subtly altering the channels of your mind, deepening some, and allowing others to slowly fade away. You are, in a very real sense, a co-creator of your own neural architecture. At the very heart of this process, at the level of the individual synapse, is a simple and elegant rule. Cells that fire together, wire together. This is the mechanism known as long-term potentiation, and it is the cellular basis of all learning and memory. Imagine a path through a dense forest. The first time you walk it, the journey is slow and difficult, requiring you to push aside branches and watch your every step. But if you walk that same path again and again, it begins to change. Your footsteps clear the way, a trail becomes visible, and soon a wide and reliable pathway is formed, making the journey swift and effortless. This is precisely what happens between your neurons. When you learn something new, a specific pattern of neurons fires. With repetition and practice, each time that pattern is activated, the synaptic connections between those neurons become stronger, more sensitive, and more efficient. The chemical conversation across the synapse becomes quicker, the listening neuron becomes more receptive, and the entire pathway is solidified. This is how a skill moves from a clumsy, conscious effort to an act of effortless grace. It is the physical etching of experience onto the very substance of your brain, the transformation of a fleeting moment into an enduring part of who you are. But the art of sculpting, whether in clay or in consciousness, involves not just adding material, but also taking it away. Neuroplasticity is as much about refinement and subtraction as it is about growth and addition. During certain periods of development, particularly in childhood and adolescence, the brain undergoes a massive and crucial process of synaptic pruning. In these early years, the brain overproduces connections, creating a dense and tangled jungle of neural possibilities. Then, like a wise and patient gardener, it begins to carefully trim away the pathways that are not being used. The connections that are weak, redundant, or irrelevant to one's life and experiences are systematically dismantled, while the connections that are strong and frequently used are preserved and strengthened. This is not a loss, but a gain in efficiency and power. The brain is streamlining its own operations, freeing up valuable energy and resources to support the networks that matter most. It is a process of specialization, of the brain tuning itself to its unique environment, a beautiful and necessary carving away of the non-essential to reveal the masterpiece of the individual mind. This living, breathing plasticity is not an abstract theory. It is a tangible reality that you can feel in your own life. Consider the profound transformation that occurs in the brain when one learns to play a musical instrument, such as the piano. At the beginning, the act is a clumsy struggle. The brain must consciously direct the fingers, read the notes, listen to the sound, and coordinate it all in a slow and laborious process. But with thousands of hours of dedicated practice, something magical happens. The brain begins to physically remold itself. The area of the motor cortex that controls the fingers actually expands, dedicating more neural real estate to these fine, complex movements. The myelin sheaths produced by the oligodendrocytes thicken along the relevant neural pathways, allowing the signals to travel faster and more efficiently. The corpus callosum, the great bridge connecting the two hemispheres, strengthens its connections to allow for better coordination between the left and right hands. In essence, the river of practice carves such a deep and powerful channel that the music begins to flow on its own. The brain is no longer just a brain, it has become a musician's brain. And so, as you rest, you can hold this gentle and empowering thought, that your mind is not a fixed and static thing, but a living sculpture, and your attention, your focus, and your experiences are the hands that are, this very moment, shaping its beautiful form. As we contemplate the profound reality that our brain is a living sculpture, constantly being shaped by the gentle pressures of our lives, a quiet question arises. When does the most significant sculpting take place? When does the artist step back to consolidate the day's work, to refine the form and prepare for a new day of creation? This crucial work happens not in the bright, busy hours of the day, but in the deep, silent, and mysterious world of sleep. For too long, we have viewed sleep as a passive state, a simple shutting down of the mind, a period of lost time. But neuroscience has revealed it to be a vibrant and essential phase of our existence, an active and intelligent process during which the brain performs some of its most vital work of restoration, reorganization, and creation. To surrender to sleep is not to surrender consciousness, but to enter a different kind of consciousness, one that is turned inward, a journey into the quiet tides that wash, cleanse, and reshape the shores of the mind. This journey into the night is not a simple descent into oblivion, but a structured passage through different realms of being, each with its own unique landscape and purpose. As you first drift off, your brain waves begin to slow, and you enter the early stages of non-rapid eye movement, or NREM, sleep. Think of this as descending from the sunlit surface of the ocean into its calmer, deeper waters. With each successive stage, you travel deeper, your breathing and heart rate slow, and your brain waves become longer and more rhythmic, culminating in the deep, powerful delta waves of slow-wave sleep. This is the most physically restorative part of the night, a state of profound rest and release. From these quiet depths, you then periodically ascend into a startlingly different world, the world of rapid eye movement, or REM, sleep. Here, your brain suddenly becomes highly active, almost as if you were awake, your eyes darting back and forth beneath your closed lids. This cycle, a gentle oscillation between the deep quiet of NREM and the active theatre of REM, repeats itself several times throughout the night, a timeless tidal rhythm that has governed life for eons. It is in the deepest, most tranquil waters of slow-wave sleep that a remarkable and beautiful process of cleansing takes place. During the immense metabolic activity of your waking hours, your brain produces waste products, cellular debris that can build up in the spaces between the neurons. One of these byproducts is a protein called beta amyloid, which, if allowed to accumulate, is associated with neurodegenerative diseases. To solve this, the brain has its own private sanitation department, known as the glymphatic system. In a feat of incredible biological engineering, during deep sleep, the glial cells in your brain actually shrink slightly, increasing the space between the neurons by as much as 60%. This expansion allows the clear cerebrospinal fluid to flow much more freely through the brain's tissues, acting like a powerful, cleansing tide that flushes away the accumulated metabolic waste. It is a nightly rinse cycle for the mind, a gentle and efficient process that washes the brain clean, ensuring that you awaken to a neural environment that is refreshed, clear, and ready for the challenges of a new day. This nocturnal period is also when the weaver of memory does its most sacred work. As we discovered, the hippocampus is responsible for forming new memories, but it is during sleep that these fragile, new memories are consolidated and integrated into the vast library of the cortex. During both slow-wave and REM sleep, the brain replays the neural patterns of recent experiences, like a musician practicing a new piece of music. This repetition strengthens the synaptic connections, solidifying the memory and transferring it for more permanent storage. Sleep is the quiet curator of your life story, sorting through the experiences of the day, deciding what is important enough to keep, and gently letting the insignificant details fade away. This entire, intricate ballet of cleaning and consolidation is synchronized by a master conductor deep within the brain, a tiny cluster of about 20,000 neurons in the hypothalamus, called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. This is your body's internal clock, a master timekeeper that is exquisitely sensitive to the external cues of light and darkness, orchestrating your 24-hour circadian rhythm. It connects your personal, internal need for rest to the grand, ancient cycle of the Earth turning on its axis, reminding you that your sleep is not an isolated act, but a participation in a universal, cosmic rhythm. It is a surrender to a wisdom far older and deeper than thought itself. As the great, slow tide of sleep carries you from the restorative depths of dreamless quiet, you do not simply return to the shore of wakefulness. Instead, you ascend into a different kind of light, a different kind of world. This is the realm of rapid eye movement sleep, the luminous and mysterious theatre of dreams. Here, in this private, nocturnal cinema, the brain becomes a master storyteller, a surrealist painter, a director of impossible films in which you are the star. The narratives that unfold are untethered from the rigid laws of physics and the linear progression of time. You might find yourself flying over a city you have never seen, or having a conversation with a person you have long since lost. The landscapes of your past can merge with the anxieties of your future, creating a rich, symbolic, and deeply personal tapestry. For generations, we have wondered at these nightly visions, and while their ultimate purpose remains a gentle mystery, neuroscience has begun to draw back the curtain, revealing the remarkable neural choreography that makes this inner world possible, a world that is at once both intensely real and utterly fantastical. The first secret to this nightly performance is a profound and necessary paradox. As your mind becomes brilliantly alive, your body is placed under a gentle, protective spell. While your brain in REM sleep is a hive of activity, with electrical patterns that look almost identical to those of an awake and active mind, your voluntary muscles are completely stilled. A small region in your brainstem sends out signals that temporarily paralyze your limbs, your torso, your jaw, a condition known as REM atonia. This is not a state of imprisonment, but an act of profound wisdom and care. It is the brain's way of ensuring the absolute safety of the dreamer. It erects an invisible wall between the world of the mind and the world of the body, allowing you to run, to fight, to fly, to scream in the narrative of your dream without moving a single muscle in your bed. It transforms your body into a still and silent vessel, a perfectly safe container for the wild and untamed adventures of the subconscious. This nightly paralysis is a testament to the brain's incredible foresight, creating a sacred and protected stage where the deepest parts of your psyche can play out their stories without consequence. On this safe and silent stage, the emotional centers of the brain take the spotlight. During REM sleep, the limbic system, that ancient, primal network that governs our feelings, becomes highly activated. In particular, the amygdala, the brain's sensitive alarm system for emotions like fear and excitement, is incredibly busy. This is why dreams are rarely neutral or dispassionate. They are often steeped in feeling, capable of producing a sense of overwhelming joy, profound sadness, or heart-pounding terror that can linger long after you awaken. In a sense, the dreaming brain is a brain that is feeling deeply and without reservation. Some theories suggest this is a form of nocturnal emotional regulation. It is a chance for the mind to revisit the emotionally significant events of the day, stripping them of their immediate context and reprocessing them in a symbolic narrative form. It is a kind of nightly therapy, a safe, simulated space where you can confront anxieties and digest powerful experiences, allowing you to awaken with a greater sense of emotional equilibrium. The dream is the brain's way of telling itself stories to make sense, not just of what happened, but of how it felt. And while this emotional orchestra is playing at full volume, the conductor of logic and reason has quietly left the room. The prefrontal cortex, the sophisticated, modern part of your brain that sits just behind your forehead, is the seat of your rational thought, your critical thinking, your sense of linear time, and your ability to distinguish the plausible from the absurd. During REM sleep, this region becomes significantly less active. This temporary quieting of your inner critic is what gives dreams their famously bizarre and surreal quality. It is why you can accept that your childhood pet is suddenly able to speak, or that you can breathe underwater, or that the layout of your own home has inexplicably changed. The logical sensor is offline, allowing the mind to think in a different way, not through linear deduction, but through free association, metaphor, and startling juxtaposition. This state of cognitive freedom is thought to be a wellspring of creativity. It is a time when the brain can form novel connections between seemingly unrelated ideas, offering fresh perspectives and creative solutions to problems that the waking, logical mind was stuck on. The dream is a journey into a world where the organizing principle is not logic, but meaning, not reason, but resonance, a nightly dip into the primordial waters of pure, untamed creativity. As you emerge from the surreal and emotionally charged landscape of a dream, there is a moment of profound disorientation, a gentle and wondrous collision of two worlds. The nonsensical narrative of the night dissolves like mist, and the familiar logic of your waking reality slowly reasserts itself. But in that soft, liminal space between dreaming and waking, one thing remains constant: the unwavering sense of I. It was I who flew over the strange city in the dream, and it is I who now feels the weight of the blanket and hears the distant morning sounds. This seamless continuity of self, this persistent, quiet flame of awareness that experiences everything from the deepest sleep to the brightest moment of insight, brings us to the very heart of the great mystery. After exploring the brain's substance, its electrical whispers, and its nightly theatres, we must now confront the most elusive and profound question of all. How does this 3-pound universe of water and electricity, this intricate machine of cells and chemicals, give rise to the immaterial, subjective, and luminous reality of consciousness itself? This question is so profound that philosophers have given it a special name: the hard problem of consciousness. The so-called easy problems, which are themselves fantastically complex, involve understanding how the brain processes information, how it focuses attention, how it controls behavior, how it distinguishes between sleep and wakefulness. We can, in theory, map the neural circuits for all of these functions. But the hard problem lingers, seemingly beyond their reach. It is the question of why and how any of this physical processing should be accompanied by an inner, private, subjective experience. There is nothing in the laws of physics that says a complex network of firing neurons should generate the feeling of warmth from a fire, the taste of honey, the deep blue of the evening sky, or the simple, profound feeling of just being. This is the great explanatory gap, the chasm between the objective, physical world of the brain and the subjective, phenomenal world of the mind. And perhaps the most peaceful way to approach this mystery is not as a problem to be solved, but as a source of unending wonder, the central, astonishing fact of our existence. One of the most beautiful ways to conceptualize this leap from matter to mind is through the idea of emergence. An emergent property is something that arises from the collective interaction of many smaller, simpler parts, but which cannot be found in or reduced to any of the individual parts themselves. Consider a single molecule of H2O. It has no property of wetness. It is not fluid. It does not flow. But when you bring trillions upon trillions of these molecules together, the collective interactions between them give rise to the stunning and completely new properties of water: its liquidity, its surface tension, its ability to form waves and currents. The wetness is a property of the system, not the parts. In the same way, a single neuron, a solitary brain cell, is not conscious. It is a tiny biological machine that processes electrical signals. It feels nothing. It knows nothing. But when 86 billion of these neurons are connected in a network of breathtaking complexity, when trillions of synapses are flashing and whispering in a coordinated symphony, perhaps what emerges from that collective, dynamic interaction is the ineffable quality of awareness itself. Consciousness, then, is not located in any single part of the brain. It is the symphony that the entire orchestra plays together. While consciousness is likely a property of the whole brain, certain structures appear to play a leading role in this symphony. Deep in the brain's center lies a structure called the thalamus, a kind of grand central station for all incoming sensory information. With the exception of smell, every piece of data from your senses, everything you see, hear, and feel, must first pass through the thalamus before being relayed to the appropriate regions of the cortex for higher processing. Because of this strategic position, the thalamus is thought to act as a crucial gateway, a gatekeeper that helps to select which streams of information are allowed to enter the theater of your conscious awareness at any given moment. It is part of the system that allows you to focus on this voice, while ignoring the hum of the refrigerator. And when you fall into a dreamless sleep, it is the thalamus that closes these gates, effectively disconnecting your conscious mind from the outside world. And then there is the gentle hum of the self, the quiet baseline of consciousness that persists when you are not focused on anything in particular. This is associated with a brain-wide network called the default mode network, which becomes active when your mind is wandering, daydreaming, remembering your past, or imagining your future. It is the network that seems to generate the ongoing, quiet narrative of you. And so, as you continue to drift, you can rest in this gentle mystery, this ghost in the machine, this astonishing truth that a finite organ of flesh and blood has somehow learned to hold the infinite and boundless light of awareness. Floating in the boundless, seemingly eternal light of awareness, we find our anchor in the gentle, rhythmic pulse of our own existence. But from where does this rhythm come? How does the conscious mind, which can feel so timeless in a moment of profound peace or joy, also become the meticulous keeper of minutes, the rememberer of yesterdays, and the planner of tomorrows? The brain, in all its intricate glory, possesses no single, dedicated organ for timekeeping, no central clock that ticks away the seconds of our lives. Instead, our perception of time is one of the mind's most subtle and masterful constructions, a rich and subjective tapestry woven from memory, emotion, and attention. Time, as we experience it, is not a rigid, external ruler, but a fluid and elastic river, a current that can slow to a near standstill in moments of fear or boredom and rush by in a torrent of joy and engagement. To explore the brain's relationship with time is to discover that we are not passive passengers on this river, but in many ways, the very architects of its flow. The beautiful, maddening subjectivity of our inner clock is something we have all felt. The 5 minutes spent waiting for an important call can feel longer than an hour spent absorbed in a beloved hobby. This stretching and compressing of our perceived reality has a deep connection to the chemistry of the brain. Our internal sense of time is profoundly influenced by the ebb and flow of neurotransmitters, particularly dopamine. This is the molecule of motivation, of reward, of seeking, and of novelty. When you are engaged in a new and exciting experience, your brain releases a surge of dopamine, and this appears to accelerate the speed of your internal clock. With your inner metronome ticking faster, the outside world, by comparison, seems to pass by more quickly. This is the neurological root of the old saying, "Time flies when you're having fun." Conversely, in states of boredom or waiting, with little novelty to stimulate the dopamine system, your internal clock slows down, and each external second is perceived with laborious detail, making time feel as if it is dragging on. Our emotional state, therefore, does not just colour our experience, it fundamentally alters the very fabric of its temporality, painting our moments with hues of swiftness or stillness. Yet, while our sense of duration is so wonderfully fluid, the brain is also a master of precision timing, capable of processing the world on a scale of milliseconds that lies far beneath our conscious awareness. This remarkable ability resides not in the higher centers of abstract thought, but in a much more ancient and densely packed structure at the back of the brain, the cerebellum. Long known as the coordinator of fine motor movement, the cerebellum is the silent virtuoso that allows a musician to play a flurry of notes with perfect rhythm, or a dancer to synchronize their movements to a beat, or a speaker to articulate the complex cadence of language. It operates with a temporal precision that is simply staggering, predicting and correcting for tiny delays in neural signaling to ensure that our actions are smooth and perfectly timed. When you catch a ball, it is your cerebellum that calculates the trajectory and tells your hand precisely when to close. This deep, intuitive sense of timing is a different kind of clock, a non-conscious, mechanical metronome that underpins our physical grace and our ability to interact with a fast-moving world. It is the silent, rhythmic engine that runs beneath the more leisurely, story-driven river of our conscious time. This grander, conscious river of time, the one that carries our sense of a personal past stretching back for years and a future that is yet to unfold, is a story that the brain tells itself, a narrative constructed from the building blocks of memory. As we have learned, the hippocampus is the weaver of new memories, but it does not attach a simple timestamp to each event. Instead, our sense of a timeline is an emergent property, a grand inference the brain makes by sequencing memories, by understanding causality, and by placing events in relation to one another. The past is not a fixed, linear track that we can visit, but a living story that we are constantly re-editing and retelling in the present. This is why periods of our lives that were rich with new experiences and the formation of many new memories, such as a vibrant holiday or our teenage years, often feel as though they lasted longer in hindsight. The brain equates the density of memory with the duration of time. And so, the river of time flows on, a dual creation of a precise, unconscious beat and a grand, subjective narrative, all of it generated within the quiet, timeless space of your own mind. You are the clockmaker, and you are the storyteller, and the time that is yours is a rhythm of your own making. From the deep, internal rhythms that compose our sense of time, we turn our attention now to an outer manifestation of rhythm, a form of organized sound that seems to speak a universal language, one that can bypass the intellect and touch the very soul. This, of course, is music. How is it that a simple sequence of vibrations in the air, a series of pressure waves with no inherent meaning, can be captured by our ears and transformed by our brain into an experience of such profound emotional power? The journey of music through the mind reveals a beautiful intersection of mathematical precision and deep, ancient feeling. It shows us a brain that is at once a brilliant pattern detector and a sensitive emotional resonator, an instrument that is perfectly tuned to be moved by the abstract beauty of sound. The story of music and the brain is the story of how a physical event in the world becomes a deeply personal event in the landscape of the self. The journey begins when these vibrations, these waves of sound, travel down the ear canal and are transformed into the familiar language of the brain. Electrical impulses. These signals then race to the auditory cortex, located in the temporal lobes on the sides of your head. Here, a remarkable process of deconstruction takes place. Specialized groups of neurons go to work, analyzing the incoming signals and breaking them down into their most fundamental components. One area processes pitch, distinguishing a low note from a high one. Another assesses loudness or amplitude. A third analyzes timbre, the unique tonal quality that allows you to tell the difference between a piano and a violin playing the very same note. And woven through all of this is the brain's exquisite sensitivity to timing and rhythm, detecting the patterns and sequences that form a melody. In this initial stage, the brain is acting as a brilliant and dispassionate analyst, a master musician listening intently to every detail of the performance. But it is in the next stage of the journey that the true magic happens. The processed information from the auditory cortex is sent out to many other regions of the brain, and most importantly, it finds a direct pathway to the brain's most ancient and powerful reward circuitry. When you are listening to a piece of music that you truly love, particularly in those moments of peak pleasure that might give you shivers down your spine, your brain releases a flood of dopamine into a region called the nucleus accumbens. This is the very same neural mechanism that is activated by our most fundamental, life-sustaining rewards. Delicious food, fulfilling social interactions, and deep personal connection. This tells us something profound. For the human brain, music is not merely a frivolous decoration. It is processed as a primary and essential source of pleasure. It is a form of abstract beauty that our brains have evolved to crave and rejoice in, a direct and reliable way to tap into our own neurochemistry of happiness and motivation. This deep pleasure is often accompanied by a physical response, an almost irresistible urge to move in time with the sound. This primal connection between music and movement is orchestrated, once again, by the cerebellum. This master of timing is not just for coordinating our own actions. It is also highly active when we listen to a compelling rhythm, predicting the pattern of beats and helping to synchronize our internal state with the external sound. The urge to tap your foot, to nod your head, or to give yourself over completely to dance is a cerebellar impulse, a deep-seated drive to align the body with the rhythm of the world. It is a reminder that before music was an art form for quiet contemplation, it was a communal technology for binding people together in synchronized movement and shared emotion. And finally, these musical patterns become deeply interwoven with the fabric of our personal histories. Because the auditory pathways are so richly connected to the hippocampus and the limbic system, a song can become a powerful key, unlocking a vivid and emotionally charged memory from the past. A simple melody can transport you back decades, allowing you to re-experience a moment with a startling and beautiful clarity. And so, music flows through us. At once, an intricate pattern for the mind to solve, a deep pleasure for the soul to feel, a compelling rhythm for the body to follow, and a faithful keeper of our most cherished memories. The profound journey of music through the mind leaves us on the shores of a deep and ancient truth, that long before we were thinking beings, we were feeling beings. Music's ability to bypass the fortress of logic and speak directly to the heart is a testament to the fact that within our sophisticated, modern brains, there exists a much older, more primal landscape, a world of pure, unvarnished emotion. To understand ourselves, we must journey into this heartland, into the structures that form the limbic system, a collection of brain regions that evolved hundreds of millions of years ago to handle the most fundamental challenges and opportunities of survival. This is not the realm of language or reason, but of raw, elemental forces: fear, pleasure, anger, attachment, and desire. Imagine it as a warm, deep, and sometimes turbulent sea that lies at the very center of your being, its powerful currents shaping your moods, guiding your instincts, and providing the deep, resonant energy that animates your life. The newer, thinking parts of your brain, the cerebral cortex, evolved on top of this ancient sea, like continents rising from the water, but they are never truly separate from the powerful tides that flow beneath. At the heart of this emotional sea stand two small, almond-shaped structures, one on each side of the brain, known as the amygdala. If the limbic system is the heartland of emotion, the amygdala is its vigilant and tireless sentinel. Its primary responsibility is to continuously scan all incoming sensory information, everything you see, hear, and feel, with a single, urgent question in mind. Is this important for my survival? It is the brain's smoke detector, its early warning system, exquisitely tuned to detect potential threats, but also to flag anything that is novel, exciting, or significant. And its most remarkable characteristic is its speed. The amygdala can receive information directly from the sensory thalamus, bypassing the slower, more methodical processing of the conscious cortex. This low road allows it to trigger an instantaneous emotional and physical reaction before your conscious mind has even had time to fully process what is happening. That sudden, inexplicable jolt of fear when you see a shape in the dark, or that immediate, intuitive feeling of distrust or warmth upon meeting someone new, is often the voice of your amygdala speaking, a rapid, preconscious assessment born from ancient survival instincts. It is the neural basis of your gut feeling, a whisper from a part of you that feels before it thinks. When this sentinel sounds the alarm, the message does not stay confined to the inner world of the mind. It is broadcast instantly throughout the entire body, and the master control center for this broadcast is the hypothalamus. This tiny, yet immensely powerful structure sits just below the thalamus, and it serves as the crucial bridge between the brain's internal state and the body's physical reality. It is the command center that links the nervous system to the endocrine, or hormone, system. So, when the amygdala detects a threat and sends its urgent signal, the hypothalamus goes to work, initiating the cascade of physical changes we know as the fight-or-flight response. It sends a signal down to the adrenal glands, instructing them to release a surge of adrenaline and cortisol into the bloodstream. These hormones are the body's call to action. Your heart begins to pound, pumping more blood to your muscles. Your breathing becomes rapid and shallow, maximizing oxygen intake. Your pupils dilate to let in more light. Your digestive system shuts down to conserve energy. In a matter of seconds, your entire physiology is transformed, your body primed for peak performance in the face of a perceived danger, all orchestrated by this tiny, powerful structure, translating a feeling into a physical reality. This seamless and powerful integration of mind and body reminds us that our emotions are not frivolous, abstract experiences. They are ancient, embodied survival programs, honed and refined over the vast expanse of evolutionary time. The immediate, sometimes overwhelming, power of an emotion like fear or anger can feel disruptive to our modern, rational lives. But for our distant ancestors, these programs were the essential tools that kept them alive in a dangerous world. The ability to react instantly to a predator, without pausing for conscious deliberation, was a profound advantage. Our emotional brain, this limbic sea, is therefore a living echo of that ancestral past, a source of deep, instinctual wisdom. It operates on a faster, more primal timescale than our newer, thinking brain. And to live a balanced life is not to attempt to conquer or suppress this ancient sea, but to learn to listen to its whispers and respect its power, to understand that its currents are a fundamental and inseparable part of the grand, flowing river of our being. We are left, then, with this deep and powerful current of ancient emotion flowing constantly within us, a limbic sea of instinct and feeling that can, at times, threaten to overwhelm the quiet shores of our reason. And yet, we are not merely creatures of instinct. We possess a remarkable capacity to pause in the face of an emotional storm, to reflect on its meaning, to consider its consequences, and to choose a different, more deliberate course of action. This ability, this quiet power of reflection and foresight, is the gift of the most recently evolved and uniquely human part of our brain, the prefrontal cortex. This is the vast expanse of neural territory that sits at the very front of your brain, just behind your forehead. If the limbic system is the ancient, passionate heart of the orchestra, the prefrontal cortex is its wise and patient conductor. It is the chief executive officer of the mind, and its work is not to generate the raw energy of emotion, but to skillfully manage, integrate, and guide that energy toward a meaningful and purposeful goal. The responsibilities of this mental conductor are vast and varied, and they are collectively known as the executive functions. This is the set of high-level cognitive skills that allows you to organize your life and navigate the complexities of the social world. It is your prefrontal cortex that allows you to plan for the future, to set a goal, and then break it down into a series of smaller, manageable steps. It is the seat of your focused attention, the part of you that can choose to listen to this voice while filtering out other distractions. It is responsible for your working memory, the mental sketchpad where you can hold and manipulate information, like when you are solving a puzzle or following a complex set of instructions. And crucially, it is the great moderator of your social behavior, helping you to understand social cues, to inhibit inappropriate impulses, and to act in ways that are aligned with your long-term values. In essence, the prefrontal cortex takes the chaotic, beautiful noise of the brain, the raw data from your senses, the deep feelings from your limbic system, the vast library of your memories, and organizes it into the coherent, deliberate symphony of your conscious life. Perhaps the most remarkable of these executive functions is the power to say no to the present in service of the future. This is the capacity for delayed gratification, a direct and often dramatic negotiation between the impulsive, pleasure-seeking limbic system and the patient, goal-oriented prefrontal cortex. Your limbic system is a creature of the immediate moment. It wants what feels good right now, without regard for future consequences. It is the part of you that wants the extra piece of cake, that wants to stay in bed instead of exercising, that wants to lash out in anger. Your prefrontal cortex, on the other hand, is the time traveler, the part of your brain that can imagine a future self and understand what actions in the present will lead to a better outcome for that future self. The ongoing, silent dialogue between these two systems is the essence of willpower and self-control. Every time you choose the harder path, the one that serves your long-term goals over your immediate desires, it is your prefrontal cortex gently but firmly overriding the powerful, ancient urges of your emotional brain. This delicate and crucial partnership between reason and emotion is not something we are born with. It is a relationship that takes a very long time to develop. The prefrontal cortex is the very last part of the human brain to reach full maturity, a slow and gradual process of wiring and insulation that continues all the way through adolescence and into your mid-20s. This simple biological fact provides a gentle and compassionate lens through which to view the often turbulent teenage years. During this period, the powerful, novelty-seeking, emotional engine of the limbic system is fully developed and running at peak capacity, while the conductor, the prefrontal cortex with its capacity for foresight and impulse control, is still under construction. This developmental mismatch helps to explain why adolescents are often more prone to risk-taking, impulsivity, and intense emotional experiences. And so, the journey into adulthood is, in a neurological sense, the slow, patient process of these two great systems learning to work together. It is the gradual strengthening of the pathways that connect emotion and reason, not so that one can conquer the other, but so they can form a wise and harmonious partnership, creating a self that is both deeply feeling and thoughtfully deliberate. Our journey so far has revealed the inner life of the brain to be a constant and beautiful dialogue, a conversation between the ancient passions of our limbic sea and the modern deliberations of our prefrontal cortex. But this is not the only great conversation happening within you. The most famous division in the entire neural landscape is the separation of the brain into two distinct, yet deeply interconnected, cerebral hemispheres. For centuries, we have been fascinated by this duality, by the idea that within our one mind, there exist two different ways of seeing the world, two distinct personalities working in partnership. And while the popular notions of a purely logical left brain and a purely creative right brain are oversimplifications, they contain a kernel of a beautiful truth. There are indeed different styles of processing, different cognitive specialties that are more dominant in one hemisphere than the other. Together, they provide a richer, more stereoscopic view of reality than either could achieve alone, and their constant, seamless communication is the final act of integration that creates our unified sense of self. The left hemisphere, for most people, is the master of language. It is the part of your brain that is processing the vocabulary and grammatical structure of these words right now. It is a specialist in analysis, in breaking things down into their smaller components, in seeing the world in a linear, sequential, and orderly fashion. It understands cause and effect. It is the part of you that sees the individual trees. The right hemisphere, in contrast, is the master of the big picture. It is a specialist in holistic, intuitive thought. It excels at spatial awareness, at recognizing faces and patterns, at understanding emotional nuance and metaphorical meaning. It does not see the individual trees so much as it grasps the feeling and the shape of the entire forest. One hemisphere provides the details, the other provides the context. One gives us the text, the other gives us the subtext. And in the quiet theatre of your mind, these two expert consultants are in a constant, high-speed conversation, ensuring that your perception of the world is both detailed and deep, both logical and resonant. For this essential conversation to occur, there must be a bridge, a physical conduit for the torrent of information that must pass between these two worlds every millisecond. This role is filled by the largest single structure of white matter in the entire brain, a magnificent and elegant piece of neural architecture called the corpus callosum. Imagine a grand, luminous superhighway arching through the center of your brain, a bridge composed of more than 200 million individual nerve fibers, each one a communication cable connecting a specific region in the left hemisphere to its corresponding partner in the right. The sheer scale of this structure is a testament to the profound importance of interhemispheric communication. Its entire existence is dedicated to one single task, ensuring that the two halves of the brain act not as separate entities, but as a single, perfectly integrated whole. It is the grand unifier, the physical loom upon which the two different threads of cognition are woven together into the seamless fabric of your conscious experience. The fruit of this constant, unified weaving is apparent in almost everything you do. Consider the simple act of understanding a joke. Your left hemisphere processes the linguistic setup, the literal meaning of the words, but it is your right hemisphere that typically grasps the punchline surprise, the shift in context, the playful, non-literal twist that makes it funny. The feeling of getting it is the spark that flies across the corpus callosum as these two different interpretations suddenly click into place. Or think of listening to a piece of music with lyrics. Your left hemisphere may follow the story of the words, while your right hemisphere follows the emotional contour of the melody. Your unified experience of the song as a single, emotionally powerful piece of art is a direct result of the continuous, high-fidelity dialogue across this neural bridge. And this unity is reflected not just in the structure of the brain, but in its overall electrical activity. The rhythmic, oscillating patterns of your brainwaves, the alpha and beta rhythms that represent different states of consciousness, are the collective hum of this unified city. They are the sound of billions of cells in both hemispheres, firing in synchronized harmony, a testament to the fact that you are not a divided kingdom, but a single, resonant, and beautifully whole being. With this deep and reassuring sense of our own internal wholeness, this image of the brain as a perfectly integrated and harmonious system, we are ready to begin the final act of our journey. We turn our gaze now from the world within to the world between, from the mystery of how one mind becomes a unified self to the even greater mystery of how that self can come to know and feel the inner world of another. We are not solitary beings, living out our lives in the isolated chambers of our own skulls. We are a social species, profoundly and fundamentally interconnected. And this connection is not just a matter of philosophy or poetry, it is a biological reality, etched into the very wiring of our brains. Our brains have evolved a remarkable and beautiful set of tools designed specifically to build bridges of understanding and empathy, to allow us to see the world, just for a moment, through another's eyes. This journey into the social brain begins with a foundational human skill, a quiet miracle that we begin to perform in early childhood. The simple, profound realization that other people have minds of their own. This ability, known as theory of mind, is the bedrock of all meaningful human interaction. It is the understanding that the people around you are not simply objects moving through space, but are subjects of their own experience, each with their own unique set of beliefs, intentions, desires, and emotions that may be vastly different from your own. It is the capacity that allows you to comfort a sad friend, because you understand that their sadness is a real, internal state. It is what allows you to tell a white lie to spare someone's feelings, because you can anticipate how the truth might affect them. It is the essential ingredient for cooperation, for teaching, for storytelling, and for love. Without it, we would be living in a world of profound and impenetrable solitude. But how does the brain accomplish this remarkable feat? How does it create a simulation, a working model, of another person's inner landscape? A clue to this mystery was discovered, quite by accident, in a laboratory in Italy, with the observation of a very special class of cells that act as a kind of mirror within the mind. These cells are known as mirror neurons, and their discovery opened a breathtaking new window into the neural basis of empathy and connection. Researchers found that specific neurons in the motor cortex of a monkey's brain would fire when the monkey performed an action, such as reaching for a peanut. This was expected. The astonishing discovery was that these very same neurons would also fire when the monkey was perfectly still and simply watched another monkey, or a human researcher, perform the exact same action. The neuron was mirroring the observed action in the monkey's own brain, creating an internal simulation of the other's behavior. Subsequent research has revealed a similar, though more complex mirror system in the human brain. When you watch someone pick up a glass of water, a part of your own neural network for picking up a glass becomes active, as if you were doing it yourself. You understand the action because, on a neural level, you are experiencing a shadow version of it in your own mind. This neural mirroring, it is theorized, is not limited to simple physical actions. It extends into the much richer and more subtle world of feelings and emotions, forming the biological foundation of empathy. The mirror system is thought to be a key part of a network that allows us to resonate with the emotional states of others. When you see a friend smile with genuine joy, your mirror neurons for smiling fire, which in turn sends a faint signal to the emotional centers of your own brain, allowing you to experience a flicker of their happiness. When you wince upon seeing someone accidentally hurt themselves, it is because your own brain's pain matrix shows a brief burst of activity. You are simulating their pain in your own neural hardware. This is not a cold, logical deduction of how they might feel. It is a direct, immediate, and deeply embodied form of understanding. It is a bridge of shared experience, built neuron by neuron, that allows the seemingly impassable gulf between two separate minds to be crossed. Empathy, in this light, is not just a virtue we should strive for. It is a fundamental part of our biological inheritance, a silent, resonant hum of shared humanity that is wired into the very fabric of our brains. This gentle, resonant bridge of empathy This neural mirroring that allows us to feel a shadow of another's joy or sorrow reveals a brain that is fundamentally built for connection. It is an organ that seeks to overcome the solitude of the self by creating a network of shared humanity. As we rest in this warm and comforting thought, let us now broaden our gaze one last time, expanding our perspective from the human scale to the truly cosmic. If the brain holds a mirror to the minds of others, could it be that it also, in some deep and mysterious way, holds a mirror to the universe itself? Could the patterns of our own inner world echo the grandest patterns of the world outside? The answer, it seems, is written in a silent, structural poetry that connects the cosmos in a cranium to the cosmos of the stars, a breathtaking similarity that hints at a deep and universal grammar of creation. When scientists create computer simulations of the large-scale structure of the universe, the image they produce is one of staggering complexity and beauty. It is not a random scattering of points, but a vast, interconnected network, a cosmic web of unimaginable proportions. Trillions of galaxies are not distributed evenly, but are drawn together by gravity into long, luminous filaments and dense, clustered nodes, separated by immense, dark voids of nearly empty space. It is a structure that is at once both sprawling and intricate. And here is where the quiet wonder begins. If you take a magnified slice of the human cerebellum, one of the most densely packed neural regions of the brain, and place it alongside this image of the cosmic web, the resemblance is simply uncanny. The intricate network of branching neurons, the way they cluster together and form long, interconnected fibers, creates a visual pattern that is profoundly, startlingly similar to the filaments of galaxies strung across the void. It is as if the same artist, using the same fundamental brushstrokes, painted two masterpieces, one on a canvas of space-time spanning billions of light-years, and the other on a canvas of living tissue nestled within the quiet darkness of a human skull. This stunning resemblance is likely not a mere coincidence, but a clue to a deeper principle that governs how complex networks, both living and non-living, organize themselves. There is a field of study known as network theory, which seeks to understand the universal mathematical laws that underpin systems as diverse as the internet, social networks, the brain, and indeed, the cosmic web. All of these systems face a similar challenge: how to form a complex and efficient network that maximizes connectivity while minimizing the energy and resources required to build and maintain it. And it seems that nature, in its boundless wisdom, has arrived at similar solutions to this problem again and again, on vastly different scales. Both the brain and the universe are networks that have grown and evolved over billions of years, and the branching, web-like structure they share is a testament to a highly efficient and resilient design, a perfect balance between local clustering and long-range connection. They are two different expressions of the same deep organizational logic, a universal harmony written in the language of mathematics and physics. Of course, we must hold this beautiful similarity with a gentle and nuanced hand. The scales and substances are unimaginably different. A single node in the cosmic web may be an entire supercluster of galaxies, while a node in the cerebellum is a single, microscopic neuron. The forces that shape them are different, with gravity sculpting the cosmic web and electrochemical forces sculpting the brain. The complexity and information processing density of the brain's network is, in fact, exponentially greater than that of the universe's large-scale structure. And yet, this is precisely what makes the comparison so philosophically profound. It leads us to a contemplative wonder, best expressed by the great astronomer Carl Sagan, that we are a way for the cosmos to know itself. The human brain can be seen as a small, privileged piece of the universe that has, over an immense evolutionary journey, folded in upon itself, developing a network of such intricate complexity that it has achieved the emergent miracle of consciousness. And with that consciousness, it can build telescopes to gaze outward and contemplate the very same cosmic structure from which it was born. And so, the visual echo between the neurons and the galaxies serves as a quiet, powerful reminder of our intimate and unbreakable connection to the whole. You are not just living in the universe is living in you. After gazing upon such a vast and intricate pattern, this cosmic web that is mirrored both in the heavens and in the very substance of our own minds. There is a natural desire to let the gaze soften, to turn away from the overwhelming complexity and seek a place of simple, profound quietude. We have journeyed through the brain's bustling society of cells, its electrical storms, its theatres of dreams, and its grand, cosmic architecture. But what happens when all of this activity is allowed to settle? What does the brain do when it is asked to do nothing at all? What is the nature of the mind when it is simply left to its own devices, free to drift without any particular goal or focus? In this gentle, untethered state, we enter the brain's most intimate and mysterious sanctuary, a realm of inner silence that is not empty, but is filled with the quiet, generative hum of the self, a state orchestrated by the brain's own default mode network. This network, a collection of brain regions that are synchronized in their activity, is defined by a beautiful paradox. It becomes most active precisely when you are the least active. When you are focused on an external task, like solving a puzzle or listening intently to a conversation, the default mode network is quiet. But the moment you finish that task and let your mind go, the moment you allow yourself to daydream while looking out a window, or to simply rest with your eyes closed, this network lights up. It is the brain's baseline, its resting hum, the intrinsic and organized activity that it returns to when it is not occupied with the demands of the outside world. For a long time, this baseline activity was dismissed as mere noise, but we now understand it to be a fundamental and deeply important state of being, a form of inner work that is just as crucial as the focused work of our waking attention. And what is this work? What is the purpose of this gentle, inner hum? One of the primary experiences generated by the default mode network is the phenomenon of mind wandering. This is not a sign of a distracted or unfocused mind, but rather a different, more expansive style of thinking. When you are in this state, your mind is free to roam across the vast landscapes of your own inner world. It drifts effortlessly between memories of the past and projections into the future. It connects seemingly disparate ideas, finding novel links between old pieces of information. It is the brain's way of taking inventory, of sorting through its vast library of experiences and weaving them into a coherent and ongoing narrative of the self. This is the state of creative incubation, the fertile silence from which sudden insights and aha moments are often born. It is the brain telling itself stories, making sense of its own journey, and gently rehearsing for the future, all beneath the surface of our conscious direction. In our modern world, which so often prizes constant productivity and focused attention, we can sometimes feel guilty for these moments of doing nothing. We might interpret our mind wandering as a failure of discipline, but the science of the brain offers us a gentle and profound reassurance. It tells us that allowing for periods of unstructured, aimless, and quiet rest is not a waste of time. It is a biological necessity. It is in these moments of stillness that the brain engages in its most crucial work of self-creation and consolidation. To consciously give ourselves permission to simply be, to let our minds drift on their own gentle currents without any agenda, is to provide the sacred space that this powerful, intrinsic network needs to do its work. And so, as you lie here now, feeling your own mind begin to soften and drift, you can let go of any need to direct it. Know that this gentle, wandering state is not just a passive entryway into sleep, but is, in itself, a deeply healing, creative, and intelligent act. It is the sound of your inner world quietly and beautifully putting itself in order. As your mind drifts in the gentle, boundless space of its own default state, it is not aimless. It is a quiet explorer, wandering through the vast internal landscapes of memory and imagination. We have seen how it journeys back, revisiting the shores of the past, but its most remarkable and uniquely human journey is its voyage in the other direction. Its journey into the undiscovered country of tomorrow. All creatures live in the present and are shaped by the past, but the human brain possesses an extraordinary gift, a form of mental time travel that allows it to project itself forward, to construct and inhabit worlds that do not yet exist. This power of prospection, of thinking about the future, is not merely a tool for planning or survival. It is the very wellspring of hope, of creativity, of aspiration, and of our ability to consciously shape our own destiny. Your brain is a cartographer of tomorrow, tirelessly drawing maps of possible futures, allowing you to choose a path and begin the journey with a vision of the destination already held gently in your mind. The raw material for these beautiful, imagined maps is found, perhaps surprisingly, in the archives of the past. For a long time, it was thought that memory and imagination were two entirely separate mental faculties, handled by different parts of the brain. But one of the most elegant discoveries of neuroscience has revealed that they are two sides of the very same coin. The hippocampus, that master weaver of our past experiences, is the very same structure that the brain calls upon when it wishes to imagine the future. When you try to picture what your holiday next summer might be like, your brain does not create this scene from nothing. Instead, your hippocampus skillfully rummages through your vast library of memories and pulls out the relevant fragments. The memory of a beach from your childhood, the face of the loved one who will be with you, the feeling of warm sun on your skin from last year. It then takes these disparate pieces from the past and creatively recombines them into a new, coherent simulation of a possible future. This reveals a profound truth. Our vision of tomorrow is built entirely from the bricks of our yesterdays. We can only dream of a future that is, in some way, a recombination of what we already know and have experienced. Once the hippocampus has assembled this collage of memory into a potential future scene, this raw, creative vision is sent forward to the great conductor of the mind, the prefrontal cortex. It is here that the imagined future is carefully examined, evaluated, and, if deemed worthy, transformed from a simple dream into a tangible plan. The prefrontal cortex brings its powers of logic, reason, and organization to the task. It assesses the plausibility of the imagined scenario. It weighs its potential costs and benefits. It connects the desired outcome to your long-term goals and values. If the vision is one it chooses to pursue, the prefrontal cortex then begins the meticulous work of reverse engineering the path to get there, breaking down the grand vision into a series of smaller, achievable steps. This is the beautiful partnership at the heart of all human achievement. The creative, associative power of the hippocampus generates the spark of an idea, and the disciplined, strategic power of the prefrontal cortex fans that spark into a flame and builds a hearth to contain it. It is the dialogue between the dreamer and the architect, both residing within you, and woven into this entire process of future thinking is a gentle, pervasive, and often helpful cognitive quirk, a natural bias toward optimism. On the whole, the human brain is not a perfectly rational predictor of the future. It tends to systematically overestimate the likelihood of experiencing positive events and underestimate the likelihood of experiencing negative ones. We often believe we are more likely than our peers to have a successful career and less likely to suffer from a serious illness. From a purely logical standpoint, this is an error in judgment. But from an evolutionary perspective, this optimism bias may be one of our most adaptive traits. It is a gentle, neurological nudge that encourages us to explore, to strive, to take calculated risks, and to persist in the face of setbacks. It is the quiet, internal engine of hope, the whisper that tells us that tomorrow can be better than today, providing the motivation we need to build that better world. And so, as you rest on the cusp of sleep, you can feel this gentle, forward-leaning energy within you, the quiet and hopeful work of the cartographer within, drawing the beautiful, open-ended map of all that is yet to be. As our long and gentle journey comes to its end, as the cartographer of tomorrow begins to fold its maps, and the quiet hum of the resting mind prepares for the deep stillness of sleep, we are left with a final, peaceful contemplation. We have travelled through the brain's watery substance, followed its electrical whispers, stood in its theatres of dreams, and marvelled at its reflection of the cosmos. Now, let us bring our awareness to the most fundamental and wondrous truth of all. The very substance of this thinking, feeling organ is not of this earth alone. The carbon, the nitrogen, the oxygen, and all the other heavy elements that form the intricate molecules of every neuron and glial cell were not forged on our planet. They were created in the unimaginable heat and pressure in the heart of a a star that lived and died billions of years before our sun was even born. That star, in its final, magnificent act, scattered these precious, life-giving elements across the galaxy, and over eons, they gathered together to form our world, our bodies, and ultimately, our brains. You are, in the most literal and poetic sense, thinking stardust. You are a small and temporary collection of the cosmos that has, through an incredible evolutionary journey, awakened. And in this awakening, we must also hold the gentle truth of its brevity. The brain, this magnificent and intricate instrument, is, like all biological matter, a temporary vessel. Our consciousness, the luminous and seemingly boundless awareness it generates, is a fleeting candle flame lit for a short while in the vast and ancient darkness. To hold this truth is not a cause for sadness, but a profound invitation to cherish the present. The finite nature of our awareness is precisely what gives every moment its meaning, its beauty, and its preciousness. The simple, profound gift of being aware of feeling the softness of your breath, of holding a memory of a loved one, of contemplating a mystery like the stars, is a privilege of this temporary physical form. Our journey through the brain is a journey into the heart of this precious, fleeting miracle. A reminder to hold our own awareness with a sense of gentle reverence and gratitude. This reverence deepens when we embrace the final, beautiful, philosophical turn, that the human brain is a way for the universe to observe and wonder about itself. For 13.8 billion years, the cosmos expanded and evolved in magnificent, unobserved silence. Then, on this small, watery planet, through the slow, patient process of evolution, an instrument of sufficient complexity arose. A piece of the universe folded in on itself and developed the capacity for subjective experience, for self-awareness. Your consciousness is not something separate from the universe, looking in from the outside. You are a momentary and beautiful flowering of the universe's own latent potential to know itself. The awe you feel when you look up at the night sky is the cosmos. Through your brain, experiencing a moment of its own grandeur. The wonder you feel contemplating these ideas is the universe, through you, contemplating its own mysterious nature. And while the individual vessel of the brain is temporary, the ripples it creates are not. We are, as we have discovered, beings built for connection. The ideas, the knowledge, the kindness, the art, and the love that are generated within one mind do not die with it. They are passed from brain to brain, across generations, forming the vast, invisible, and ever-growing tapestry of human culture and shared understanding. Our true legacy is not in the preservation of our physical selves, but in the positive and creative contributions we make to this great, ongoing conversation. And now, our quiet conversation for tonight comes to a close. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the silent, wondrous universe within. I hope its gentle truths have brought you a sense of peace and perspective. If you feel moved to, please share a thought or a feeling in the comments below. Your presence is what makes this shared space possible, and a simple like and subscribe will ensure we can continue these peaceful explorations together. For now, there is nothing left to do, nothing to solve. Simply let go and allow the gentle tide to carry you to the quiet shores of a deep and truly restorative sleep. Good night.